Hi, my name is Bibek Adhikari. I am an English instructor. In today's class, we are going to solve the grammar portion of Unit 14, that is, question tags. So let's begin. Right, we shall now start the grammar portion of Unit 13, which is called question tags. First of all, let me begin by asking what question tags are. So what are question tags? Question tags are the short questions that we put at the end of sentences, particularly in spoken English. Question tags are also used in written English, but these are mostly used in spoken English. There are lots of different question tags, but the rules are not difficult to learn. So in this class, I'll teach you how to, understand the different kind of rules that are associated with question tags. So let's start with the general rule. The first rule of question tag relates to positive, negative thing. So if the main part of the sentence is positive, the question tag is negative. For example, he's a doctor. The question tag to this sentence would be, isn't he? Why? That is because the sentence is a positive sentence, so we have a negative tag. Alright, let me give you one more example. You work in a bank. So this is a positive sentence. So the question tag would be, don't you? The rule is similar. We have a positive statement. That is why we have a negative tag. This is the first or the basic rule, rule number 1. Alright, so if the main part of the sentence is positive, the question tag is negative. And if the main part of the sentence is negative, the question tag is positive. Let me give you 2 examples. You haven't met him. Alright, this is a negative statement. So the tag would be positive. Have you? One more example. She isn't coming. So the question tag would be, is she? And why does this happen? Because we have a negative statement. So obviously the tag would be positive. Here we have a negative statement like the first one. So the tag would be positive tag. Alright, so let's talk about rules when it comes to auxiliary verbs. With auxiliary verbs, for example, before that, let us remember that the question tag uses the same verb as the main part of the sentence. If this is an auxiliary verb, like it could be have, it could be. So these are auxiliary verbs, and the question tag is made with the auxiliary verb. For example, they've gone away for a few days. So what would be the question tag here? They've gone for a few days. Haven't they? Very good. Haven't they? And why is it done? It is done because the question tag is positive. The statement is positive. That's why we have a negative question tag. And what did we do? We used this auxiliary verb. Alright, some more examples. They weren't here. First one, let me write another question. He had met him before. Right, one more. This isn't working. 3 sentences. Let's find the question tag. Let's write the question tag. They weren't here. So it's a negative statement. The negative statement would have a positive tag. They weren't here. So here's the auxiliary verb. We use the auxiliary verb. So the answer is were they. He had met him before. The auxiliaries had, hadn't, he. Alright, this isn't working. Is it? What did we do? We used the auxiliary verbs. That is what we did. We used the auxiliary verbs. What if the sentences do not have auxiliary verbs? Let's think about that. Without auxiliary verbs. What if the sentences do not have any auxiliary verbs? If the main part of the sentence does not have an auxiliary verb, the question tag uses an appropriate form of do. So what do? We use an appropriate form of do. For example, I said that. Where's the auxiliary verb? There's no auxiliary verb. Only the verb said is here, so we use didn't I. And why do we use the past form? Because it isn't past. That is why we need the past form. Some more examples. You don't recognize me. You don't recognize me. One more question. She eats meat. Well, let's write the tag questions. You don't recognize me. So the auxiliary, what do we use? Do you. She eats meat, no auxiliary. So what should we do? We first talk about auxiliary verbs. Now here's no auxiliary verb, and the sentence is in present tense. So we use does she. This is wrong. Doesn't she. Alright, that is correct. And why is it so? Because the sentence is positive, we need a negative tag. Very good. Sentence is positive, so we need a negative tag. Alright, let's talk about modal verbs now. Now we shall talk about with modal verbs. With modal verbs. If there is a modal verb in the main part of the sentence, the question tag uses the same modal verb. Let's see. They couldn't hear me, comma, question mark. One more example. You won't tell anyone, comma, question mark. So let's think about these two questions. They couldn't hear me. We have a modal verb. You won't tell me, another modal verb. Since both of these sentences are negative, we need a positive tag, that is for sure. Since these are negative statements, right? Negative statements, we need positive tags, that is for sure. So let's think about the tags. They couldn't hear me. Could they? Very good. You won't tell anyone. Will you? What did we just do? We used this modal verbs. So modal verbs were repeated, right? That is what we did. Now let's talk about with I am. What does that mean? With I am. Be careful with question tags with sentences that start with I am, because something is tricky here. I'm the fastest. I'm the fastest. So what is the question tag? Is it amn't I? No, the question tag is aren't I. But wait, there's another form too, and that is am I not. All right. The first question tag is pretty much formal. So this is formal. Well, the second question tag is pretty much informal. So be careful with sentences that start with I am, because the question tag for I am is aren't I or am I not. I'm the fastest, aren't I, am I not. I'm the smartest, aren't I. I'm the happiest, aren't I. I'm the greatest, aren't I? Okay, so much for that. Navel gauging. Now, let's talk about intonation a bit. Let's talk a bit about intonation. Okay, that is what I mean. Intonation. Question tags can either be real questions, where you want to know the answer, simply asking for agreement when we already know the answers. So basically, question tags could be of two kinds. First are real questions. Second are, simply asking for agreements. Simply asking for agreements. Now, think about it. So if the question tag is a real question, we use a rising intonation. And if we already know the question, we use a falling intonation. That means in the first case, our tone of voice rises. In the second case, our tone of voice falls. Let's write a couple of examples. He's a doctor. So what is the question tag? Isn't he? I am happy. Aren't I? So in the first case, the first question is a real question. This is a real question. This is a question simply asking for agreement. So in the first case, he's a doctor. Now we need, information. We need information, so the tone rises. He's a doctor. Isn't he? We don't say he's a doctor. Isn't he? Right? The tone rises. He's a doctor. Isn't he? And in the second case, this is not even a real question, so the tone falls down. I am happy. Aren't I? I'm happy. It's not something like I'm happy. Aren't I? And that is wrong. So I'm happy. Aren't I? You see? That is the whole idea. This is what we call rising intonation, and this is what we call falling intonation. Rising rising tone and falling tone. Alright, that was something about tag questions. Now I'm going to give you some homework. Your homework is going to be, look at these statements and write question tags. The first one is, it isn't very warm today. It isn't very warm today, question mark. Number B, Hari is very clever, question mark. Number C, the film wasn't very good. Some more questions. Number D, you'd better see a doctor. Alright, I think this would do. 4 questions. Alright, this is your homework. All you have to do, is supply correct form of question tags in these questions, in these statements. And that's it. Alright, with this we have come to end of today's class. If you have any questions or suggestions regarding these video series, feel free to write us at learning@deerwalk.edu.nb. Thank you.